want to do sort of a story time, but this is a little bit different. This is a little bit more reminiscent. Back in the days, man, dating. Dating was a breeze back in the days, man. It was a pleasure. It was a joy. Girls were so different. I was born in the 70s, so I came of age in the 90s. The early 90s, I started hitting puberty and all that. And then in the late 90s, I became a full-grown adult. 2000 roll around, I'm 21. All that time, I was born in Chicago too. In Chicago, crowded Chicago. So that was just a thing. Everybody was clicked up and booed up growing up around where I grew up. If you didn't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they'll team you up with somebody. That's just the way it was. Go ahead and get it from me. For yourself. You know you couldn't climb this hill. Now you're blocking up that right lane or that left lane. Fast lane. The lane that counts. I'm Bob Teller. My company is going through something right now, and I might quit. I already quit, really. I quit. I just quit. I quit my job. I gave him a 2-week notice. But we'll talk Monday. I didn't all the way quit, but I quit. It's time to quit. Go back to my pickup truck and try my pickup truck. And then do Uber, man. Just do Uber. Work so many hours as a trucker, man. That's one reason that Uber has been stealing truck drivers for so long. Because most truck drivers, and I can't say most, but a lot of truck drivers, we're into truck driving because of the freedom aspect of truck driving. But then we get in these companies where they'll fucking, in this situation, ignore me or just not listen to me. I signed up for this company to drive a regional position. I wanted a Southwest regional position. I ended up somehow in a company with a Mid-South position, but it's still similar. I'm authorized to drive in all the West Coast states. Not authorized. I'm supposed to be driving in the Western states, the Southwest states, and some Midwestern states. Well, the Midwest and the Southwest is what I'm supposed to be driving in. But then every now and then, not every now and then, they've been keeping me in the Southeast. And I didn't sign up for that shit. Currently, I'm in Georgia heading to South Carolina, and they want me to drop some shit off in fucking Virginia. That pisses me off. Because I didn't sign up for that. I can drive in those states, and I've driven in those states, but I don't want to be on the East Coast. Or the Southeast. Or the East Coast. I don't want to drive there. And most drivers don't want to drive there because it's more congested, it's more crowded. People are a little bit ruder. The weather's worse, the terrain is worse. It's not smooth. It's not flat. And the part of Texas I live in is in the hill country, but it's still not like out here. These are rolling hills. And to think people used to travel this in wagons or by foot. Foot is almost more sensible because a walk out here wouldn't be that bad. And then on top of it, all of the walking uphill, it's not that strenuous because you're walking. and the hills ain't too deep. And then downhill, you get the boost walking. And they don't got bad critters like we got. They got critters, but not like we got in Texas. In Texas, we got all the critters that are mammals. We got the critters that are reptiles. We got the critters that are arachnids, spiders. All kind of critters, man. Scorpions. And encountering one of those critters don't bug me. But having one of them critters encounter you while you sleep, that's the problem. And that would be the problem of taking a walk that last days. Some of those days you might be sleeping outdoors. Or outdoors enough to where critters could get to you while you sleep. Sometimes you go to sleep and critters will wake up sleeping next to you for your warmth. It's dark. You smell all right. Dark, warm. Wake up, a skunk will be sleeping curled up next to you. That's what life outside of civilization is like. That's what life outside the cities is like. That's what life outside of the modern day era is like. If you've never woke up with a critter next to you, you've lived a modern life. And that could be taken away in a second. You could be sleeping outdoors tomorrow. Anything can happen. And most modern day Americans have never slept outdoors. I ran away a few times growing up in Chicago. I ran away a few times as a little kid. And I didn't run away super long or nothing. I'd be going a day, 2, 3, 4. Usually like a day or two. Come back at some point in the day. You're at a stage where you don't know what to do with yourself, so you gotta go home to do it. But you don't have the right understanding as a child. But I ran away as a child. This is one thing, that's one of millions of things that makes me think I'm undiagnosed autistic. But because the typical child doesn't run away. And that's some crazy shit. To run away as like a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 11, 12, 13. But sometimes it's an option. Because your parents are doing such a shit job. Such an absent job. They went too many days without thinking about being a parent. That's the gift and the curse. Everything in life is a gift and a curse. My mom raised me and my sister to be so capable we could run her house better than she could run it herself by the time we were still very young children. And it led to situations where you might not talk to your mother for a few days. And she don't even know how something has slipped by or fallen by the wayside. But again, it's like you have superpowers as a child. And back to the original topic in this video, why it was so easy for me to date when I was a young man. Women saw me as very mature. They saw me as a man amongst little boys because I knew so much. I knew so much about taking care of myself. It's so funny that these guys, they talk about how being domestic work is feminine. But I've always known how to cook. I've always known how to do laundry. And I've always been willing to do both of these things, wash dishes. Something I was always super willing to do. Yes, you can definitely get sex off of washing dishes. Turns women on to see a man washing dishes. But, and of course, these red pill dudes will laugh at that. But like I say, man, I was always with women romantically. Even when it was very early in life, too early in life. I was hypersexual. By the time I hit 15, 16, 17, 18, now I'm hypersexual. I was already sexualized very early and too early, which they talk about and act like it would be a good thing and brag about. And it's dudes like myself that become red pill. A great example are the Kelly brothers, and there's so many Kelly brothers that have done crazy things throughout history. You got the famous Dancing Kelly brothers, and then you got like Machine Gun Kelly and his brother. But anyway, and other Kellys that were gangsters in American history. But the Kelly brothers I'm talking about is R. Kelly and his brother. I can't think of R. Kelly's brother's name, but they were both introduced and abused sexually by their older sister. R. Kelly became red pill about it. His brother became blue pill about it. And that's that red pill is when you can't beat them, join them. That's barely their first message. They say nice guys finish last, so don't be nice, or at least pretend not to be nice, which is even worse than saying don't be nice. Don't be nice is already an outrageous thing. And this is coming from a dude that was born and raised in Chicago in the 70s, came up in the 80s and the 90s, left Chicago, moved away, went to Texas. 3 years after Texas, after getting there, I become a felon. I'm a felon already. I end up getting probation because I'm very young, in and out of jail. Spent my 18th birthday in Bexar County Jail in San Antonio. 19th birthday. My 19th birthday, I was on the run, but I was arrested very shortly after on MTR, violation of my probation. Sent me back to Chicago, in and out of prison, living very rough. And all this time, I was having lots and lots of girlfriends, man. Lots of girlfriends. And history speaks for itself. I was not one of those dudes in jail not getting visits, not getting mail, not getting commissary from girlfriends. I was not one of those inmates. I always got my letters, got my commissary, got my visits, had my girls, got my pics, got my thing, man. You know, I was a regular dude, normal, average, a little bit above average probably performance-wise. Nah, above average in all these areas that I was performing in. But either way it goes, that's outrageous to me. And then I listen to these red pill dudes and I know that they don't know what they're talking about because early on, you know, they would say things like, yeah, you're a lame, you're a square, you're doing things that only simps would do, writing poetry to girls because girls don't like poems. One of my hustles in jail was writing poems for dudes that was having relationship problems. Writing poems, and I quit that on its own. That was one of those things I quit it because it would have been way too much. And it was too much. And then you would, you know, very rarely would you write a poem for some dude for money. And that's the last that he asks you for help with his relationship. And that could turn into a whole thing. And then on top of it, these dudes is in prison, man. You don't want to be hearing these dudes have horrible relationships and stories and situations with kids and stuff like that. Too stressful, man. Too heavy on your soul. But poetry does work, especially when it's well thought out of. It makes sense. It hits the right areas. Talking about poetry don't work. Hallmark is a billion-dollar company that's been a billion-dollar company since before companies was making billions of dollars. And Hallmark, I mean, I don't know. I ain't checked in a while. I'm not that kind of guy, so I can write my own poems, so I don't pay attention to that type of stuff. But I'm pretty sure the card business is still just as lucrative as it's always been. I love poetry. And I got a poetry book in here that I keep close in reach. The Rose That Grew From Concrete, Tupac's poetry book. Tupac's another great example. He was nice to girls. I was nice to girls and not so nice to guys. Those red pill dudes are betas. I don't believe in that whole alpha beta stuff. It's silly nonsense. Because when it comes to alpha, there can only be one alpha. You know. But those red pill dudes are the peanut gallery. Those are the football fans. Those are the dudes, the peanut gallery, the ones in the crowd laughing, making jokes. The crude guys, the ones that'll write some racist poetry or some sexual graffiti on the porta potty wall. They the peanut gallery. They claim to be superior to women, and then that mean the women, talk down to women, always cruel to women. Well, if you're above somebody or something, why would you be cruel to them? Just your presence alone and your voice commands respect. That's another thing. Animals. I wouldn't call myself an animal, and an alpha, and I don't think I'm an alpha. Like I said, I don't believe in that malarkey. But I am a man. So, like, even animals respect me. I've been in many cities. I was a garbage man for a couple years in Texas. I've encountered so many animals, and I like hiking. And I hiked all around Texas. Miles and miles of Texas. Years and years. I lived in Texas many years, and I've hiked, and I've been homeless, transient, walked and hiked, and all kinds of stuff over the years. And I've encountered bobcats, and that's the scariest critter I've ever encountered. Other cats, other big cats, coyotes. We encounter a lot of coyotes. But coyotes ain't really too scary, man. You know, I ain't encountered no big old coyote. And bobcats are smaller than coyotes. Sometimes they can be about as big as a coyote. But they still just more intimidating, man. They just little balls of balled up muscle. And it's like they balled up muscle. So you know when they release, they... And the way they walk, everything about bobcats is just more intimidating. Their paws big. It's like they got dog paws, but they cat paws. So yeah, you don't want no problem with no bobcat, man. And you know if that thing bite down and lock on you, it's locked, it's bit. You ever get into a tussle with a bobcat, you know you're gonna be fighting with everything you got. And that mentality, that energy, that's what women want. That's what women crave. That protective energy that will go to war with a stranger for them. And that ain't these red pill dudes. That's another thing. Those dudes have so much bros before hoes energy. It's one thing to have that when you hanging with the fella, chilling with the dudes, kicking it. But you gotta know when to turn on some things and turn off some things. And that's the funny thing. They talk about emotional. And they're the most emotional dudes out there. Crying about divorces and money and losses, hells they done took in life. Midlife crisis on display. That's one thing that the 21st century and YouTube and social media brought. These depressed, middle-aged, midlife crisis having dudes. They get to spew their inner dark feelings. Get to talk about it. Having these dark negative feelings, and they lean into them and don't have solace. I listen to classical music a lot, especially if I'm reading or doing work or something like that, paperwork. But even more and more as I get older, I listen to more and more. I'll be 47 soon. I listen to more and more classical music. I listen to rap. I like rap. A lot. I listen to classical. Think my thoughts. But yeah, dating is wild. It's wild these days. I feel bad for it. Guy was making fun of my patchy beard the other day. My beard's kind of patchy, but it's okay. I shave it. You know, I usually wear a goatee. Right now, I look rough anyway. And I probably won't shave a goatee next time I shave. I'll probably just shave real close and prepare myself to get my goatee. But it's okay. My beard is patchy. and I got a scar on my face. I got bit in the cheek by a dog when I was a little boy, and they end up like pulling skin and showing. So that's character, and I don't mind wearing it. But yeah, nice guys, man. Be nice, and that's a form of game. That's game, variation of game. That author, Dan Brown, one of my favorite authors early up. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. I read that early in his publication, and I read another book he wrote called The Art of Seduction back then. I think he might even wrote The Art of Seduction before the 48 Laws of Power. But both great books. But in The Art of Seduction, you learn about all these different seduction styles. And he writes about several known romantic dudes who had a lot of affairs with a lot of women throughout history, historic figures like Rasputin, Casanova, other noble dudes like that, and their seductive styles. Some were very romantic, some were artists, some were, like Rasputin. He was like a pseudo guru, religious figure, religious guru type dude. Healer, snake oil salesman, very convincing, very conniving, and he had that leader type of captivation style, mesmerizing style. And you learn about all these different seduction styles in a book like that. And most of the guys and most of the seduction styles are nice dudes, romantic dudes that entertain and enlighten and mesmerize women in different ways. I read that in prison. Reading all that stuff and knowing more of that stuff made me actually slow down and dating women, big time. There's a movie that addresses that. It's about a black dude, actually. He goes to jail, he gets real educated, well read. He comes out, he has all kind of problems dating. I can't remember the name of the movie. It's an old black and white flick. But the sun is shining in them mirrors really bad. I gotta lean forward to not get blinded. Problems driving on the East Coast. But yeah, being a man amongst boys, that helps. Maturity helps. Dudes, those red pill type of dudes who've always been around. Guys have always had that mentality and that thinking pattern. But those type of dudes will be surprised at what dating life is like for dudes who have a different mentality than them, different behavior than them. Mature dudes and what attracts dudes. And that, speaking of that peanut gallery thing, guys who sit around and roasting dudes. There's been times back in my clubbing days, back in the 90s, I would go to a club that I'm unfamiliar with. The peanut gallery would start roasting me.
76 East Clemson Boulevard.
I go into a club, there's a table full of dudes or a section where it's a bunch of dudes talking shit at people in their eyesight, walking past, roasting strangers. And they would roast me, and usually I would roast back, or every now and then a woman or several women would speak up on my behalf and roast them for me, and I end up hooking up with girls. Oftentimes, without saying anything, just because some dudes was hating and clowning. As somebody who traveled around a lot, I experienced that several times in the club
1 mile
days.
ahead, take exit
Again, back in the 90s.
on US 76 East Clemson Boulevard.
Messages has been received from dispatch. A new load number 8337250001 has been received.
But yeah, man, bizarre world. And the funny thing is, we live in this internet age, the dawn of the information age. And the most popular channels, yada, 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 yeah. I'll look at it later. I'll look at what I'm gonna be pulling over.
3 miles ahead, take exit 19A and then merge left on US 76
I'm hungry
East
as hell. I
Clemson
gotta
Boulevard.
find
Take exit 19A and then merge left on US 76 East Clemson Boulevard.
But yeah, the good old peanut gallery poontang. When you go someplace that you've never been before or you haven't been too many times, and the locals will get to trying to roast you, and they'll talk you into some coochie, trying to down talk you, trying to put you down to
6
put themselves
miles
up,
ahead, stay on US
and they end up
76
putting
East
you all the way
North
into
Avenue
someplace
and
they
bears
want to be.
right.
That happened, man. I really want to write the story of my life, man. I need a book advance. I need some company, some publishing company to give me a book advance. I already wrote the first 3 chapters of a novel. That's a part of a trilogy that I came up with while I was in prison. While I was in prison, I came up with the story. And the other inmates respected me a lot. I was young, but they still respected me a lot, and they called me Professor or Old School or Chi-Town. I'm from Chicago originally, so I often get called Chi-Town. But a lot of dudes call me Professor. A lot of people call me Old School. Even though I was only in my 20s, my mid-20s. But they always asked me questions. I was like the in-house dictionary, the in-house trivia guy, the in-house guy to get people to be arguing and everything. Got to understand, there was no Google back then. Even on the free world, Google was barely a thing in the free world, and it didn't work the way that it works today, where you could just ask it a question and more than likely get a good answer. But I was basically Google before Google, in-house like that, and that's what Dudes was, you know. Dudes was what's the word that we used to call walking around living Dewey Decimal Systems and card catalogs or Rolodex. Just get all this information in your brain in this particular guitar.
High-risk rollover area. Please proceed with caution.
So I come up with this story, and the inmates would get me to tell the story over and over again. So in the course of coming up with this story and answering questions, I came up with this story, and it grew into a trilogy. It's called The Mind of a Maniac. It's about a young man who moved from Chicago because of a whole bunch of violent situations that happened, and they end up running for their life and their freedom. His mother ends up murdering somebody, actually her. She murders his stepfather, her husband, and she runs down south. And I already wrote that part, but they run down south, where eventually he'll end up going, the young 15-year-old dude will end up going to jail for, I won't ruin it. No, that's not in the book yet. But he ends up going to jail, where he ends up getting into some situation. He ends up getting medicated. They treat him for depression, get him some antipsychotic drugs that make him go batshit crazy. And while he's in jail, he ends up flipping out and hurting people really bad. And ends up on lockdown and menstrual segregation and doped up. They keep him doped up, they keep him shot up, they keep him basically comatized in the stupor of drugs. Things that they used to do back in the days. But they just keep him locked in the cell, they keep him sedated with some drugs that they give him every single day. And he's in this stupor for like a month until his grandmother gets a hold of everybody, finds out that his grandson is in this jail, and they convince him to get him off of the drugs because his grandfather did real bad on the drugs. So anyway, they get him off of the drugs. But while he was in this coma, he tells himself his life story over and over again, and he corrects incorrections. So he learns from his memories, and he ends up, by the time he gets out of the coma, he ends up in a state of total recall. Everything that he's ever seen, experienced, or heard, he's able to recall it with vivid detail, and he contextualizes it. So he ends up coming out of this coma with this crazy brain, and he's always talking to himself and refining it. And now, once he's out the coma, he starts absorbing information and knowledge and education and experience, even though he's locked in this cell on solitary confinement. he starts coming up with all these things in his cell, man, working out, blah, 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 blah. Skip forward ahead, the story gets crazy. He does become almost like a Lex Luthor type. And in my head, and because of the inmates that used to have me tell the story over and over again, this story is so very well developed. Also, once I got out of prison, like 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago, something like that. Once I got released from prison, after that, I started working on it in certain ways, making notes and making creative from some of the characters from the novel. I made social media pages for them, and I did some character development things. And some of the characters, man, so I really do need a book deal. I should get $1 million to write these stories. And like I said, I got the first 3 chapters, and I can write more. If I could get out of this truck, I need a book advance. I drive every day, all day for my family, and I haven't been able to incorporate a way that I can write and drive and multitask other ways by myself with no help. 47-year-old unmarried dude. Been in love many times, but none of them women have been helpful, supportive, or peaceful enough to become my full-time wives. Women don't want to support a man in his dream at no expense. You could pay a woman's bills and rent, and if you're living with her, she's going to act like you're doing her a favor and not want to do anything for you. Even if you're not living with her, man, giving a woman the money has always been, a woman feels entitled to that money. A large percent of women feel entitled to it. So I am blue pill. That's another funny thing about the blue pill dude or the red pill dude. They're called blue pill dude simps. Simp really means simpleton. Somebody who's easy to game. A simpleton. They've changed it to mean somebody who's romantic about women or defensive of women or protective of women, who likes women or who prefers women. Their thing is the opposite of a pimp. Anybody who values women, anybody who's protective of women, anybody who gives women initially the benefit of the doubt. Just because I am a gentleman doesn't mean that I put up with shenanigans from hooligan women or strippers or promiscuous women or anything like that. You know. Or even abuse from my own women. Gentle but firm. Like toilet paper. Like expensive toilet paper. Gentle but firm. And old school. I'm not doing any of the weird stuff that these young freaky people doing these days, man. Spreading COVID and making it mutate inside their bodies and spit it back out. Literally. Doing too much mouth stuff these days, these young people. And the girls, man. Too many damn tattoos on the girls, man. The dudes too, man. Girls and dudes. Young girls and young dudes is tattooed up. I got tattooed. I got quite a bit of ink, actually. I only got 4 tattoos, but most of them got quite a bit of ink in them. I grew up in Chicago, man. My mom is a foster child. My biological father's an orphan that I never met. Talked to him on the phone one time, and he betrayed me that one time. Anyway, I grew up as a gangster. And most of my tattoos, I got 4 tattoos. 2 of them are pretty big. But 3 of those 4 tattoos I got in prison. One of those tattoos I got in the 8th grade. Yeah, a little hooligan, man. Dealing with homelessness and street stuff. Already been arrested in Chicago a few times by the time I got that tattoo. Most of my tattoos I got in prison. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way at all. I say that to say this. I got my tattoos in prison. So don't call me a hypocrite because I don't want to date a girl that doesn't have tattoos. Yes, I've been in prison, but that don't mean I want to date girls who've been in prison. And I don't want my children to go to prison. I have children. So it's okay for me to be a hypocrite. That is what it is, man. It's been hypocrites around forever, and that's my job as a parent to be a hypocrite. Yes, I've been in prison. Of course, I don't want my children to go to prison. That doesn't make me a hypocrite. That makes me a decent human being, especially a decent father, at the very least. Not even saying I'm a
Stay
good
on
father,
US 76 East North Avenue is in Bears Creek.
but at the very least, I would not want my children to repeat the same mistakes that I've made.
2.9 miles ahead, stay on US 76 East West River Street as it turns left.
I was thinking of the phone fell. The phone fell and it's out of sight. How many minutes we have? 30-something minutes. I should always have water in arm's reach. Still got some coffee. Nope, no more coffee. Gotta get some water. Damn, that took a long time. Gotta have water within arm's reach. I do need to stop and look at this box and make sure they didn't give me something else. Because I was really mad about what they're trying to have me drive, man. I signed up for my company as a Southwest Regional driver. I am now in Georgia, and I might not even be in Georgia. I might be in South Carolina already. I don't want to be in South Carolina. And then on top of it, you got the whole thing with the young man from Chicago getting lynched in South Carolina. My mama don't want me to be here. And my mama don't hardly ever, we don't talk like that. But she specifically says she don't want me in South Carolina. So this is why I quit my trucking job today. Because I am in South Carolina, or at least on my way to it. And what are you going to do? Just sit in the truck in the middle of nowhere in some freaking state that you're not from? That's the problem with truck driving and companies like this. Like I said on the day, man. And the first time that they did this BS had me driving something that I didn't apply for. And then on top of it, gonna mostly have me Southeast. If you want to hire a Southeast regional driver, hire a Southeast regional driver. And you hire me out of Texas, and I'm not even in East Texas. You hire me out of Texas, you know, if you're gonna hire me for Southeast Regional, I would expect more money, of course. Those are two different time zones. You're not just driving one time zone over. I'm driving the 2 time zones away from myself. I'm always in a time that's not my time. Shut up. And you're wrong. The speed limit is 35. It's a shame. I like truck driving, and I'm freaking good at it, apparently. But these companies do this BS.
One mile ahead, stay on US 76 East West River Street as it turns left.
I don't know what I'm going to do for the meantime. I just want to get back to my pickup truck, and I'm going to start doing Uber. Just do Uber again. Which, damn. I really don't want to do Uber no more, man. I'm sick of Uber. Damn, it's messed up. I was just setting this truck up exactly like I wanted it to.
Point 3 miles ahead, stay on US 76 East West River Street as it turns left.
I'm trying to get my shit together, trying to be healthy. And stress don't help. So yeah, man, and I wouldn't even mind driving all 48 states, but you got to give me 3,000 miles a week, at least. And they haven't been doing good enough at giving me 1,000 miles a week. Or I can't say that, but they haven't been good enough. They haven't been giving me enough miles with what I offer them. You know, the 70 hours I work a week ain't worth the miles that I get. 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. So it's crazy because most truckers love trucking. So many people get their CDL and they never actually drive for anybody. So for you to actually get your CDL and drive for many, many years and many, many miles. You know, I'm driving an automatic right now. I've only been with maybe 2 companies that had an automatic semi. I've driven automatic like garbage trucks. Most garbage trucks are automatic. But most tractor trailer companies, when I've driven a tractor trailer, it's usually been stick shift, manual. At least a 10-speed, mostly, almost my entire career. And I don't mind the automatics. They've gotten good. They used to be horrible. And I'm probably also so used to driving them. I know when the average truck driver that's used to driving a regular truck drives one of these, it beeps and chimes all the time. Because this truck won't let you drive close without making a lot of noise. I've never naturally drove close. I just don't drive close naturally. So I never notice it because it never makes those noises for me. Because I drive more correctly. Again, something that these companies should appreciate a lot more. I had kind of a rocky start, but I was running really hard. They ran me hard my first month, my first 2 months. And I'm even saying it on the call box. It's like, man, this is bait and switch bullshit, man. I start out on the Southwest Regional, which you should have no problem getting miles because it's so many miles. When you go west, everything is so far apart from each other that those miles stack up. Because you can't stop. Where you going to stop at? In the middle of the desert? So as I was saying before, Uber steals so many truck drivers because that's a more closer version of freedom. Now it's freedom, because you really have no security in Uber. If something go wrong, you are screwed. with trucking, you can usually get like cash advances and all that type of stuff. And they'll pay for your hotel sometimes, pay for your meals sometimes, reimburse you for certain things. That really, really helps. And Uber don't really do that too much. You get reimbursed. You got to call. You got to be on top of it. In the cases that it works. And of course, the tax situation. You got to do your own taxes. But when I get back there to the truck, I had to do all this damn paperwork for this company. So, and I did this for months. No real problems, man. I could keep doing this if they would keep giving me miles. But this last time I set up for like 5 fucking days, man. And the whole time I'm messaging them and calling them, no answer. I gotta make some money, man. Sitting around for a week at a time.
Miles ahead, stay on US 76 East Belton Highway as it bears left.
shit. Is this thing still recording? This thing probably still recording.
One mile ahead, stay on US 76 East Belton Highway as it bears left.
Where am I supposed to be going for the empty period? Question mark. This shipper says do not bobtail, and I still don't have a trailer. Period. Damn, my phone fell and I can't find it. And I see a downside of having this freaking grabber bar right there.